Hey everyone, and welcome back. So today we're going to be reviewing the Rusty Sword Vanguard Island on the Nintendo Switch. Now this is a Zelda-inspired top-down action-adventure game that released on May 12th of 2022 and currently sells for only 99 cents at full price on the Nintendo Switch eShop. The game is developed by Plow Games, and it has a download size of 85 megabytes. Now, just before jumping into the review, I do want to specify this is 0% a sponsored review. However, I was sent a download code for this game by the developer, and I actually chatted with him quite a bit to have a little bit of background on this game. The reason why is that it is only 99 cents. However, it can be completed in about 30 minutes to an hour, depending on how much exploration you want to do. And you have to almost see this game as sort of a paid demo that will allow them to develop the full thing. And just like the title of the game suggests, Vanguard Island, which is what comes before and presents new ideas, this game is about setting the stage for something amazing to come. Now, I will go through this review as I review each and every game, and I will be giving it a fair score at the end. However, I did want to put that out there before we jumped into the review, just so that all of you know what it is that we're looking at. And trust me, if you are in any way a fan of retro-styled Zelda-like adventures, this is a review you're going to want to watch all the way through. Now let's not waste any more time and jump straight in. Just remember, if you are liking the content, hit that like button. It's the best way to help support the channel. Now for the storyline, we get a 2-frame cutscene presenting us arriving to the island in search of the Vanguard Relic. Now although this isn't much, as I said earlier, this game is like a demo of what's to come. And based on the quality of the character designs and the animation, I will be really excited if we do get a full game with multiple cutscenes of this genre. I mean, the designs here are clearly inspired by the artworks of something like we see in the Dragon Warrior or Final Fantasy series. For the moment, it's not much to go on, but it is very promising. Now if we jump straight into the gameplay. Now as soon as you start up the game and you land on the island, the inspiration here is 100% clear. This is heavily inspired by The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. I mean, everything from the way your character moves around to the way he swings his sword just oozes that game. And even right in front of you, there's an even more amazing throwback with a very familiar cave that if you go inside has a single sign in it inviting you to not go alone. Because yes, you can even play this adventure as a co-op one. And I'm telling you right away, the comparisons and throwbacks don't end there, going as so far as the design on the destructible bushes. Now, as I said earlier, this adventure can be completed in only 30 minutes because you only have a single dungeon on the island. However, at the budget price of 99 cents, that behind the quality of the gameplay here and the overall nostalgia feeling that I got, I would have happily paid up to 5 times that price just for this one little adventure. And as I said earlier, what the developer was doing by releasing this game is getting us hyped and showing us what they can actually accomplish in a Zelda-like adventure. Now getting back to the gameplay itself, however, it plays out exactly like a top-down Zelda game. You'll be adventuring your way through the island, you have to find your way to a dungeon. Once you are in that dungeon, you're going to have a series of different interconnecting rooms. You'll have some pretty simple puzzles to solve because, as I said, this would be an introductory dungeon. And everything will end with a boss fight. Now, I'm not going to share that boss fight in this video because since there is one and only boss to this game, I really don't want to ruin it. Now, what really surprised me is that after finishing that dungeon and diving back into the game, you can easily extend your gameplay by about 20 to 30 extra minutes by just trying to find all the little secrets hidden throughout the island. There are hidden caves, hidden passages in the dungeon, everything you would expect from an old school Zelda-like. And I'm going to tell you that is the other point that really sold me on the nostalgia factor of going past the same place I went 2 or 3 times already and discovering something new. Just like in A Link to the Past when you would discover a crack in the wall, drop a bomb, and find a new passageway. Now there are also a lot of other indicators here that this is laying the framework for a much larger future coming game. For example, when you open up your option menu, there are actually 2 different buttons that you can assign items to. However, throughout this game, you only acquire 1. There's also a lot of open spaces in your inventory for future acquired items. However, in the game, you never get there. I mean, there's even an indicator at the bottom left for where you would be collecting heart pieces, but once again, in the game, I didn't find any. Now, this is not actually a critique. I'm just pointing to the fact that this is clearly the framework for something larger to come. Now, I got super hyped and super into this gameplay, and I loved every second of it. The actual only downside is when it was over, I really wanted to keep on playing. And on a side note, I really do hope that if they do make a follow-up to the game, that you'll have the choice for your main character to be the male or female character, and not it only be assigned to the first and second player. So now if we jump quickly into the controls. Now the overall feeling of the controls here really impressed me because they emulate almost perfectly what I would have expected from a port of A Link to the Past. However, they do give you the option between using the joystick or the D-pad, but the movement is incredibly smooth. Every time you swing your sword, it feels good, and having access to your special items being assigned to 2 individual buttons is a huge plus, even though in this game you actually only get 1 special item. Now, unfortunately, it's really hard to get more deeply into the controls than that, because for the moment that's all we have access to, 1 special item and a sword swing. But as I said since the beginning of the review, what's important here is looking at the framework that they set up, and it is very, very promising. Now if we move straight into the graphics and sound. Now, as I said earlier, when you look at the overworld, when you look at the dungeons, everything oozes 16-bit Zelda. So much so that if you told me that this was a neighboring kingdom of Hyrule with similar fauna and enemy types related to those we know from the classic games, it would work. However, the only place where I would say that the game does take a different graphical turn clearly is in the design of the characters, which clearly, as I pointed to earlier, seems more inspired from something from Final Fantasy or Dragon Warrior. But overall, the blend of the two work perfectly, and it delivers in an amazing graphical world if you're into 16-bit style pixel art. I mean, a lot of people still today will argue that A Link to the Past is among some of the best looking SNES games. Well, if that's so, then this game has perfectly delivered. Also, performance-wise, I have detected nothing over the 45 minutes of gameplay. Obviously, it is not a lot to go on, but no frame rate drops, everything is smooth as butter. If we switch over quickly to the sound design, well, throughout your adventure, I detected 3 different tracks. One for the overworld, one for the dungeon, and a special one for the boss fight. And I've got to say, I was once again very impressed by the quality of the soundtracks. They might not quite be up there with classic Zelda music, but very little is. But nonetheless, for an awesome retro-inspired soundtrack, this is very impressive. And I'm very thankful that they do change the soundtrack between the overworld and the dungeons, something some other games don't do. But if you're into 16-bit style gameplay, both in the visual and auditory sense, this is a great package. Now if we move on to the verdict, and if this is one of the first videos of mine that you're watching, I just want to let you know that my full grading scale is down below in the description of the video. Now, rating the Rusty Sword Vanguard Island was very difficult. However, if I rate it in its current state as is, I'll be giving it a 7, putting it at the low end of a good game. Now, if that score seems low based on all the praise I've been throwing at the game, it's just because I have to rate it based on its current state, and after 45 minutes, this game just leaves you wanting more. However, I do want to be super clear here. Based on my discussions with Josh from the development team, they are looking at a full game counting about 8 dungeons. However, if they deliver this level of gameplay over 8 dungeons in a 10 to 15-ish hour experience, we're looking at a game that will easily be 9 and above. And if they deliver on that, I would gladly pay in the $20-ish range for that type of indie experience. Now, this is a shout out to all of you. If you have any interest in Zelda-like gameplay, for 99 cents, pick this game up. The experience might be short, but it is a very sweet one. And let's support this developer and help them deliver the full game. Now, on this one, I really want to hear from all of you. Let me know down below if you think you'll be picking up the Rusty Sword Vanguard Island on the Nintendo Switch. And don't forget on the way out that if you did like this content, consider hitting that like button, subscribing to the channel if you aren't already, and hitting that notification bell so you know when all my future content comes out. And as usual, I hope I'll see you in my next video.